Bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Good morning everyone. Today will be a continuation of the previous lecture, and so today the topic was like last time we discussed that it's an analysis about these four types of conditioned realities: Paramatta Dhammas, Paramatta Jatika, Uppadino Dhamma and Anupanna Dhammas. So what are the similarities and how do we classify them in terms of Dhamma? That's what we discussed. So last week we discussed about the nature of existing, how something could be called existing. If you remember, we divided into two groups. The main clarification was ultimacy, the ultimate Paramatta, and Panyati. If you remember, the Paramatta and Panyati. The Paramatta are the realities or the things, natures that have their own unique intrinsic nature. Then if something doesn't possess such an intrinsic nature, it is classified as Panyati or concepts, because they don't possess any essence to be known with wisdom. In terms of analytical wisdom, I would call. In terms of analytical wisdom, there is no essence to be known. So they are classified as non-existing thing, like the concepts, like the idea of a man, idea of a tree, and so forth. Because when we analyze it, we end up in bunch of or group of ultimate realities. So therefore, the idea of a tree, idea of a man, there is no one single entity to be called a man or a tree. So that's why we put them into concepts. So when we come to ultimate realities, ultimacy, the Paramatta, those are the things that can be verified or known with analytical wisdom, not normal wisdom, because the idea of a man can be known with ordinary wisdom, but when we analyze it, the idea disappears. So what we are talking here as ultimacy, the Paramatta, are the things, natures that can be known with analytical wisdom. When we analyze, if we come into a nature that cannot be further divided, that is called an ultimate reality or a Paramatta. So then within the group of Paramatta, now that was the first classification. If I remind again, because we do it once a week, so there are many possibilities that the listeners may forget what we discuss. So Paramatta are the first classification, and then out of what is apart from them are Panyati. Panyati we termed it as concepts. So they are non-existing, they do not exist. Why? Because they do not have a essence, non-existing. Avijjamana in Pali we call. Then the Paramattas do exist because they possess an intrinsic nature, having an intrinsic characteristic. So in terms of this, they are existing. Paramattas are existing. But the concepts, in terms of this classification, not in other classifications, they do not exist. Non-existing. Right, non-existing. So we don't need to, regarding the Panyatis, we don't need to worry about the other stages, because from the very beginning, they are considered not existing anymore. So then the Paramattas were divided into two groups, conditioned and unconditioned. The Pali terms we used, Sankhata, Paramatta, then Asankhata, the unconditioned. Paramatta. So the existence of Asankhata Paramattas we shall discuss in the next lecture, the next week. How do we understand this, the existing nature of Asankhata Paramattas? We just focused on Sankhata, the conditioned realities. So there are four groups of the conditioned realities, if you remember. Paramatta Dhamma, then we had Uppadino Dhamma, then Paramatta Jatika, Then we have Anuppanna Dhamma. Right? Anuppanna Dhamma. So these are the four. Then we mentioned that, we discussed that Paramatta Dhammas, in terms of Paramatta Dhammas, the realities, some realities have arisen and passed away already. Some have arisen but not passed away yet. Some have not arisen. So nothing to talk about their passing away, vanishing. So in this regard, Paramatta Dhammas are the realities that are concerned or defined based on arising. So these are the realities that are based on arising. So when a reality which has an intrinsic characteristic, having an intrinsic characteristic is the basic criteria to be considered into the group of Paramatta. If it doesn't have it, goes out of the group. Now when we talk about these, when we talk about these realities, we always to keep in mind that having an intrinsic nature is a must. So that is the very basic idea of a Paramatta. To be called something a Paramatta, it should have its own intrinsic nature. It means it can be verified or known with analytical, at the end of the analytical wisdom, it can be known. It doesn't become just a concept when we analyze it. It means it cannot be further divided into components. It is not constituted with two, three things like a table. The idea of table disappears when we divide into its components, the constitutions, the parts of the wood parts. So likewise, having an intrinsic nature is the basic reason to be called something a Paramatta. Then with that, when the reality, these Paramattas are discussed in terms of arising. If something has arisen and passed away, something has arisen but not passed away yet, and something has not arisen yet, that is the discussion. Then in that regard, we call them Paramatta Dhammas. Paramatta Dhammas are always related to the arising. So in this classification, I am not considering Nibbana as a Paramatta Dhamma, because when we study Abhidhamma, we call there are 4 Paramatta Dhammas. For our easiness in teaching here, we take Nibbana as a Asankata Paramatta, something apart from the entire Sankata group, condition group. So that's why we should not get confused on this. So in these lectures, I am talking Paramatta Dhammas as conditioned realities that are connected with arising. So then in this group, so having an intrinsic nature is a must. Within this group, out of the natures which have an intrinsic nature, the realities which have arisen and not passed away yet are considered existing here. So these realities are considered non-existing. If a reality has not arisen yet, or if a reality has arisen and passed away, these are not existing. Only this is existing, right? So then, if we ask, did these realities have an intrinsic nature? Yes, they did. Will these realities have an intrinsic nature? Yes, they will. So therefore, they are still in the group of Paramatta. Then when we come to the Upadino Dhammas, if we remind again, Upadino Dhammas are the resultants that are going to happen because their karma has gained the opportunity to yield results. When the karma has gained the opportunity, the resultant consciousness, mental factors and the material stuff are considered existing even prior to their arising. Even before their arising, they are considered existing. It's one way of considering. So as long as the karma has gained the opportunity, but it has not arisen yet, so these realities are considered existing. They are considered existing. But if somehow this karma is put down, what happens? They come into non-existence. If it is put down by overcoming with another karma or attaining Maggaphala, so these realities come into non-existence. Then Paramatta Jatikas remain within the mind stream. Paramatta Jatika, PG I will call. Then if, as long as they remain, they are considered existing, uneradicated. But when for instance, the path consciousness, there are various ways that these Paramatta Jatikas can be eradicated. So when the path consciousness arises, these Paramattha Jatikas come into non-existence, right? So until the path consciousness has not arisen, they are considered existing because they are possible to arise. So as long as the karma is not put down, not overcome or eradicated or suppressed, the realities that are going to happen are considered existing. Then with regard to the Anuppanna Dhammas, so as long as the causes, Kamma and Avijja and Tanha, when they remain within the mind stream, even at this moment, there are a lot of Anuppanna Dhammas, that there are a lot of realities that are going to happen, not has arisen, which are going to, we are bound with this suffering we call, with these realities. So as long as these causes prevail within ourselves, these realities are considered existing. But whenever these karma and the causes are put down or eradicated, what happened? These realities, some, not all, some of these realities come into non-existence. Not all, some of them come into non-existence. So this is how we classified the existing, within red color, the existing nature and the non-existing nature things, according to, based on the different categories of Sankhata Paramattas. Right? It was something little quite deep, but it's quite important to understand the Theravada teachings profoundly. So now this was the last lecture. Now today we are going to discuss more about their classification. Today will be more and more technical than the last week. Anyway, we have to go through this lecture before we jump into this Asankhata Paramattas. So that's why I decided to talk on these matters. If you go into the handout 1.68. So now, so these are the things. Now I shall erase this and go into our normal ordinary chart. We shall go into our ordinary chart of analyzing the existence, the diagram we used to draw explaining the samsara and the nirvana. That was like we had the past, the birth, then we had consciousness and mental material stuff. This was the death, will be the death. And then as long as the karma remains having the support of avijja and tanha, craving and ignorance, they will at one point, for instance, we discuss here, at one point it gets the opportunity, if it has gained the opportunity, now there are some unarisen realities which are going to happen, and these realities had already happened in the past life. There was kamma and avijja in the past life. Kamma, avijja and tanha. Since they were supported, they gained the opportunity and they arose. Now in what is going to happen in the next life is not has not yet been decided. It means it's about to happen. It's about to happen but not yet. So these are the Paramattha Dhammas, the Chitta Chetasikas which arises. Paramattha Dhammas. So these are the past ones up to here. Now, because last time I said that the diagram is going to change today a bit. Right? So up to here, which the reality is the Paramattha Dhammas which has arisen and passed away already. The Paramattha Dhammas which have arisen and passed away already are called past, Atita, if you remember, the past, present and the future. That classification of past, present and future is exclusive to the Paramattha Dhammas, not to the other three groups. So these were the Paramattha Jatikas. These were the Anupanna Dhammas, and some of the resultant consciousness or mental factors or material that arises due to the kamma which gain the opportunity were called Upadino Dhamma. So, all the realities that could happen in the future, the possibility was called Anupanna. If there are some resultant realities that would be arose by a kamma that gained the opportunity, then we call them as Upadino Dhamma. That was our definitions. Then the latent ones were Paramattha Jatikas. Now, the past, present, future categorization. So, up to here the realities that have arisen already, past, we call it Atita. Meaning that they have arisen and passed away. Even this reality has arisen and passed away. So, this would keep on going endlessly according to Buddhism up to here. Then the reality which has arisen but not passed away yet is called present, Pachuppanna. Then where do we put the Anagata realities? What has not arisen yet? When we were drawing the diagram, we used to say these were Upadino, these were the Anupannas, and they were the Paramattha Jatikas. That was our explanation, because we want to have a clear clarification. But now I am going to change these realities that would occur in future, because how do we define the future? Past is the reality that has arisen and passed away. Present is arisen but not passed away yet. Future which has not arisen yet. So, these realities that would arise in future should be designated as Anagata till we attain the final liberation. Whatever reality that would arise are called Anagata. Right. So, this is Pachuppanna, exclusive to this reality only, or mental and material realities that are still present at the moment. So, what is going to happen is called future realities. So, then where does these now, according to this diagram, the entire samsara, the basic structure, the main stream is divided into three groups: past, present and future. So, where does the remaining three, Upadino, Paramattha Jatika and Anupanna, would fit according to this diagram? Now, it is getting a little bit complicated, but anyway, we will try to understand it as much as possible. Now, we will first go to the Paramattha Jatika, the latent potencies. It is very clear, the latent potencies of Avijja, Tanha, Kamma, latent potencies are called Paramattha Jatikas. So, these are Paramattha Jatikas. But it is not an exhaustive classification. There can be Vasana, Asaya and some other Paramattha Jatikas that we already discussed in very briefly in that lecture. Then what about Anupanna Dhammas? Previously we mentioned that what was written in the green color were the Anupanna Dhammas. So, what were written in the broken lines were the Anupanna Dhammas. How do we explain them? How do we explain them? So, now the thing is, at this moment we said, how do we explain the Anupanna Dhammas? We are not freed from them. We are bound to experience these Anupanna Dhammas. So, thing is, now when we want to explain Anupanna Dhammas, basically we have to go into the potency. So, all the potencies are written below this group, below this line. So, therefore, the potency for these realities, are the actual Anupanna Dhammas. It means these realities now, even at this moment, if you take this moment, even at this moment, there is a possibility that this reality would happen, this reality would happen, all these realities would happen. There is a possibility. So, actually Anupanna Dhamma means this possibility. Or potency. potency. There is a potency that these Anuppanna Dhammas would arise as realities, as Paramatta Dhammas. So even at this present moment, we are talking about the present moment, at this moment, we are bound with this reality. That boundness, it's like a hidden energy. It's not the kinetic energy, the other one, like the potential energy we call, like a potential energy. We are bound with this. So actually the real naming of Anuppanna Dhammas are not the future realities. We are talking about the potency. So therefore in the chart, actually the real place for the Anuppanna Dhammas are here, because we are bound with the potency. That's why the Anuppanna Dhammas were unable to designate it as future realities. Because future realities means, now what is the definition of a future reality? Now a Anuppanna potency would arise as a future reality. When it arises as a future reality, it becomes a Paramatta Dhamma. So even at this moment, if we consider this reality, this potency would arise as a future reality. At that moment, considering that arising moment, considering that existing moment, from here we call this a future reality, but not the potency. Potency should not be classified, should not be designated as past, present or future, because the past, present or future is basically about the arising stuff, things that are related to the arising, related to the persisting, related to the vanishing, and also can be known together with some other realities, because our Paramatta Dhammas do not arise alone. If you remember the previous lectures, they always arise in clusters. So whenever we call about a future reality, we have to consider about it existing within a cluster. So always the past, present or future, they have to arise, they have to be with clusters. So now when we think about Lobha would arise together with mind and some other mental stuff, realities. So when we consider that moment of Lobha arising in future, that moment, that Paramatta Dhamma, because all these we know that Paramatta, Jatika, Anuppanna Dhamma and also Upadino Dhamma, we mentioned many times, whenever they arise as a reality, they are called a Paramatta Dhamma. These potencies, when they come into the surface means when they arises as separate realities, in clusters, we call them Paramatta Dhammas. So consider that moment. Considering that arising moment, the existing, momentary existing moment, even before the arising, when we consider about this moment, we should call them Anagata realities, the future realities. But the potency, when they remain as a potency, when we focus on the potential level, we call them Anuppanna Dhammas, or we call them the other three names, Upadino and Paramatta Jatikas. So that is the difference. So therefore, if we really use the word naming, the Anuppanna Dhammas should be mentioned here as a potency. But till now, till today, we always mention Anuppanna Dhammas here. That is the reason was, if we talk about it from here, the explanations would be very obscure and difficult to grasp. So that's why now today we change the diagram and we give the real position of the future realities to them, and then the potencies are brought under this line. Now we think about the few Upadino Dhamma. Upadino, if you remember, Upadino Dhamma are the resultant realities that are going to happen because the Kamma has gained the opportunity. So normally we drew, these are Upadino Dhammas. But when we consider about their arising moment, even at this moment, they are future realities. That is why in Dhammasangani, Upadino Dhammas were put in future group. But actually now when we consider about the potency, what we have to think is at this moment, even at this moment, because the Kamma has gained the opportunity. If I draw it more clearly, so these are the potencies of Anupanna Dhammas. So, we are bound with that Anupanna, right. So, this is the Kamma. Kamma had gained the opportunity. It is going to arise as a future reality. So, this previously we called this Upadino Dhamma. The actual name of Upadino Dhamma as a potency would fall here. What does it mean? It has not arisen yet, but it is considered as existing. What is considered as existing? If the future, because there are many sutras, Buddha mentioned very clearly, future reality does not exist. And it was clear in our first chart, we mentioned the past and the future are not existing. But at the same time, we define the Anupanna Dhammas, non-arisen realities are existing. Upadino Dhammas, the resultant that are possible to arise are existing. Paramattha Jatikas are existing. We classified them as existing realities. At the same time, we said the future is not existing. So, when we look into this, yes, the future is not existing at the moment. But the potency, we cannot say, we cannot deny the fact that we have such a potency. That is why these potencies were named existing, because we have to consider at this moment, even at this moment, now when the Kamma has gained the opportunity, we are bound to this suffering. As long as the causes prevail, we have a potency of experiencing the future suffering. So, considering these moments, we call them existing realities. That is why we can classify them. Other than that, it is very clear the future is not existing at the moment. Now, I hope that the explanation was clear. When we talk about the future realities, we are talking about the moment they will arise as separate clusters, as separate entities, as ultimate realities. That is the future reality. We have to consider about this moment, not the potency. So, the basic idea of this lecture is to show that, to differentiate the realities and the potencies. Potencies should not be designated either as present, past or future, because they are just potencies, they have not arisen yet. What has arisen and passed away is past. What has arisen but not vanished yet is present. Something which has not arisen is future. That is regarding this line in the Paramattha Dhammas. Then the potencies should not be designated. So, why they are, we do not discuss them. At the level of potency, we do not discuss them in terms of arising. That is true that they will arise, but when they arise, we have to consider them as future. In the Paramattha Dhamma level. This is the Paramattha Dhamma level. We have to consider them in the Paramattha Dhamma level. So, that was that is the first main point that I would like to discuss. It is mentioned in 1.68. When three realities, Upadino Dhamma, Paramattha Jatika and Anupanna Dhammas, remain as a potency to arise in future, they should not be designated either as past, nor as present, or as present or future. For instance, the commentary states that it is not suitable to call the defilements that are eradicated by the noble paths. Now, when the noble path arises, these defilements would be eradicated. It is not suitable to consider these eradicated defilements either as present, past or future. It is not suitable to consider them as present, past or future. Why? They have not come into arisen. If we call that these defilements are eradicated, the past defilements are eradicated, the effort is useless. The future defilements are eradicated, they have not arisen, because future is the reality that would arise at this moment. We are considering about this moment. If we say the present realities have arisen, at the moment of path consciousness, the path consciousness is freed from defilement, it is not mixed with defilements. So, if we say the present defilements are eradicated, then there will be a contradiction that the path consciousness is together with the defilement. So, what is being eradicated is the potency. This potency should not be considered as past, present and future, because past, present and future is exclusively to this line, to these Paramattha Dhammas. To consider something as present or Pachuppanna, it has to arising. It has to come into the stage of arising. So, then now this is where it becomes a little bit complicated. Now, So this is the exact explanation. Now here it's a potency, and then these two, the Paramattha Jatikas, do manifest extra attributes than just the potency. They do manifest extra attributes than the potency because they do exist. These, as long as these conditions remain, we are bound with this suffering. So this potency depends on them. As long as the causes remain, the karma, if this was put down, this would arise. So therefore we have we have a potency. As long as if the causes are there, we are bound with this suffering, the potency is there. Whenever they are removed, these potencies would be gone. So these potencies greatly depend on the Paramattha Jatikas. But we do call them as a potency because they also arise as defilements and all this. We do call them as a potency, but their potential nature is little bit different. To eradicate them, we have to bring forth maggas or attain paranibbana or some other means, then they will be eradicated. So therefore, even though we classify them as potencies, these we can call the secondary potencies. These are very basic potencies. And at the same time, they are found in one way or another within ourselves. Defilements are there. It's subtle than the defilement that arises in the mind stream. It's a subtle stage. Based on these subtle natures, we are bound with potency. So we can, even though we call them a potency because they are possible to arise, this is a very basic type of a potency. These potencies greatly means completely depend on these potencies. That's also something we need to clarify. Now, all these three basic or secondary potencies have the possibility of arising. They arise. Whenever they arise as ultimate realities. Now think about this potency. The Anupanna Dhammas, the fourth class group, the Anupanna Dhammas, they would arise as separate reality, this potency. So because they are arising in future, these potencies arising in future, therefore sometimes within the literature, we call them anagata realities. We do call them future reality, but they are not the real future. Real future means we have to consider about the moment of their arising. So as a potency, though they arise in future, because they are arising in future, they have somewhat similar characteristic of future reality. So we call them in Pali anagata samanya, not anagata. That is similar to future. Similar to future. We call them anagata samanya. Same thing can be used with this potency, anagata samanya. And moreover, even the basic potency, because it arises, defilements arises in future as separate entities, can also be called anagata samanya. So all these three potencies are called anagata samanya, not anagata exactly, similar to future. In some places in the literature, that is something that we have to consider. In some places, it has been used. The word anagata has been used in some places for these potencies. Whenever ladies have to suggest that in such occasions, when we deeply go into the literature, when we analyze, find the information that I used in the commentaries and also in the text, we have to consider these anagata. This word anagata is not about the real future, it refers to the similarity. So even though in some places you may encounter that the word anagata has been used, it's clearly been used to these potencies, but that is in the meaning of similarity, not exact future. The real word should be used is anagata samanya, that's the best word. But the word anagata has been used, but we have to understand it as in the Theravada context, this is not the real future, because the real future we are talking about the reality, not about the potency. So if the potency is addressed with the anagata term, we have to understand it as anagatang vyati anagatang, similar to anagata. In a Pali context, is a samasa, kammadare samasa, upamana pubapada, right? So that is the second information that I would like to offer. Now we should differentiate the potencies with the Paramattha Dhammas, and how do we term the potencies? Anagata samanya. then the basic potency that is found there, right, has some other characteristics as well. It's not only because when we see this basic potency, we know that they exist within our mind stream as forces. At the same time, they are being eradicated by the path consciousness and also suppressed by the defilement at this moment. Therefore, these potencies possess also characteristics similar to the present realities. I think last time in one discussion, Dr. Ryan asked this question, why they are not present. Yes, they do have present qualities. They greatly correspond to the present realities because they are found at this moment. But the difficulty, the barrier to call them present realities is because they have not come into the state of arising together in a cluster. So therefore, but still these potency, not these two potencies were not given that it is, maybe it is possible to term them. I don't want to go into that depth to have a discussion on this because I am unable to give an exact answer. But just in this level, this manifests more attributes, similar attributes to present reality. So therefore, these potencies, in addition to be called the Anagata Samanya, are also called Pachuppanna Samanya. Pachuppanna Samanya means similar to present realities. Not exactly present. Not exactly present. Sometimes the word uppanna, pachuppanna can be used, can be found within the literature. Especially the word uppanna is greatly found in the literature. Uppanna is which is arising, right? So in that context, the word uppanna, even though it's used to these potencies, we call it possible to arise, not the exact arising, right? So there are some terms have been used in this regard. I'll just erase it because it can lead to confusion. So now these realities are similar to present, not exact present. Why they are not exactly present? Because they have not come into the state of arising. They are just a potency. They are something sleeping, something hidden, right? So that's why what we mentioned in the paragraph 169, Paramatta Jatikas do not fit to be termed as Pachuppanna as they have not arisen. However, they do manifest correspondingly similar features to those of present realities. They associate the mind stream. Why? They associate the mind stream greatly and greatly influence it. Moreover, what is temporarily suppressed and permanently eradicated by wholesome mentalities are the defilements that are existing in the mind stream at those particular moments. When a certain wholesome deed eradicates, it eradicates what exists there, what is existing. Otherwise, the eradication is useless. So that's why what has been eradicated or what has been suppressed are the realities that exist. So they do possess the present attribute. Therefore, Paramatta Jatikas are coined as Pachuppanna Samanya, realities similar to present, but not the present, exact present. They are similar to present. So now we discuss about two new terms, Anagata Samanya and Pachuppanna Samanya. Then we go into the next top point. Now we are going to revise what we have discussed so far. So the potencies that remain within us, whenever they arise in future, even they can arise in future, right? I think it's better to write, right? They may also arise in future as separate entities, especially this craving and so forth, and karma also as a resultant, right? So we have to discuss them separately, each topic, but collectively we call them, right? So now whenever they arise as realities, whenever these potencies arise as realities, we call them Paramatta Dhammas. Then at that level, after they have arisen, now think, imagine this has arisen and passed away. If this has arisen and passed away, and we are at this moment, so this becomes, at this moment, this is a past reality because it has arisen. Imagine if this moment has passed and now we are in this moment, so these realities have occurred and passed away, so this becomes a past reality. While it is existing, it's a present reality. I think it's clear. These two explanations about the past and future, past and present are clear to understand. The point is, what we already discussed actually, the point is the future. Even at this moment, we know they would arise. After they have arisen and passed away is past, they have arisen and not passed away is present. Even before they are arising, now they will arise in future. Now when we want to term something as future, we have to consider that moment. A potency, whenever it arises as a reality in future, considering that moment of arising, considering that moment, not the potency here, we have to term it as future. So in the end, what happens? It is these potencies that have arisen and passed away. It is these potencies that have arisen and existing at the moment. It is these same potencies that would arise in future. So future means you have to consider that moment, not the potential moment. So if I'll repeat again, if a potency has arisen and passed away, then it is a past reality. If it has arisen and not passed away yet, it's a present reality. Considering that potency that would arise in future, that arising moment, considering that arising moment is future reality. But the potency itself should not be called, should not be called either as past, present or future. It should not be designated in terms of past, present, future. The past, present, future is related to the Paramatta Dhamma level. Yeah, that is the next point that we would like to discuss. That is 1.70. All these three types of realities, Uppadino Dhamma, Paramatta Jatika and Anuppanna Dhammas, whenever they arise together with some other realities, it means in clusters, are considered as Paramatta Dhammas. They are Paramatta Dhammas. When they have arisen as realities that possess unique intrinsic natures, that is the basic criteria for Paramatta, and have vanished, they are called past. Before the arising of these three types of realities, intrinsic nature and when they have arisen as realities, possess intrinsic natures and exist together at the moment of existing with some other realities, they are called present. After they have passed away, they are called vanished, they are called past. Before the arising of these three types of realities, considering the moment of their future arising as a Paramatta Dhamma, those realities that arise in future as Paramatta Dhammas can be termed as Anagata. This moment is Anagata. Then it highlighted the most important fact is that when these three types of realities remain as a potency to arise, that potency should not be classified either as past, present or future. Then a counter question would surely arise. If these potencies, now do these potencies exist according to the teachings? Yes, we have lots of evidence to consider. That Buddha has considered these potencies as existing in one way or another. It's a fact according to the literature. So then a question comes, if these existing potencies are not classified as past, present or future, if they are not discussed in terms of arising and passing away, how do we term them? Because we already discussed the classification of conditioned and the unconditioned. According to the Lakkana Sutta, Sankata Lakkana Sutta, Buddha mentioned what are the three characteristics of conditioned realities. It has an arising, it has a vanishing, and during the persisting stage, an alternative is seen. A change is seen. It has Jati Jara Marana, arises, decays and passes away. So this is the basic characteristics of conditioned realities, and here we are talking, we do not distinguish them in terms of arising. And then if it is a conditioned reality and if it has arising, passing away and decaying, after it has passed away, it's called Atita, past, while during its arising, persisting, vanishing periods, it's called present, before its arising, it's called future. So in the past, present, future, time-based classification is also depending on the nature of arising, persisting and passing away. So now we are talking that these realities cannot be classified either as past, present, future, and they are not defined in terms of arising. Do they fall into the unconditioned group? Because the conditioned group have these characteristics. That is, they have arising, persisting and passing away, and also they can be classified as past, present, future. So now if we are not classifying them as past, present, future, or designating them based on the arising, persisting and vanishing, how are we going to classify them? Are they conditioned or unconditioned? Because if you remember the basic chart, we classified these Anuppanna, Uppadino, Paramattha, Jatika in the conditioned group, not in the unconditioned. Unconditioned was separate to the Nirvana. So how do we understand this point? Are they unconditioned? The Paramattha Dipani, the book, has addressed this on this point. So according to it, it says classification is based, the fact of classification, the clue of classification is based on how do we understand them, how do we know them, how do we feel them, these potencies. So based on that, they fall into the conditioned group. According to Theravadians, they fall into the conditioned, not the unconditioned. The reason is, according to Paramattha Dipani, how do we understand them? We know that if these potencies are not put down, if these potencies are not brought into non-existence by the earlier mentioned means, how do we bring this into a non-existent? By path consciousness. How do we bring Uppadino Dhamma into non-existent? By suppressing the Kamma which got the opportunity. How do we get rid of the Anuppanna? How do we make the Anuppanna non-existing? By eradicating the causes. If the relevant causes are not removed, these potencies would surely arise in future. After arising, they persist momentarily and will pass away. I will repeat again. These potencies will remain within us and they are existing unless they are not brought into non-existence. How do we bring them into non-existence? In the Paramattha Jatikas, basically by Magga Chitta or attaining Paranirvana. Uppadino Dhamma, by putting down the Kamma which gain the opportunity. Anuppanna Dhammas, by removing the causes. So unless we remove the relevant causes for these potencies, they would surely arise in future. If they arise, they will surely arise, persist and pass away in future. So it means they are sankata, the conditioned characteristics of arising, persisting and passing away. We know them in terms of that understanding. They would arise in future. So that is why they matter to us. Because they are going to arise in future. So before they are arising, we have to remove them. So therefore, these potencies are known in terms of arising, passing away and vanishing in future. So they are not completely freed from the conditioned qualities. Because the very basic reason for this, according to Theravadians, the potencies and their state of as Paramattha Dhamma are not two things. That is the potency which arises as a Paramattha Dhamma. The potency itself arises as a Paramattha Dhamma. It's not a different state. That is the argument that was presented in Katavattu, in the Anusaya Anarammana Katha. Some sect wanted to completely differentiate these potencies from the realities. The Theravadians held to the idea, no, that is not how the Buddha wanted. There are many, they said there are many suttas, evidences to show that it is the same reality that remains as a potency according to the idea of the Buddha. And it is, such information can be fetched from the literature, from the canon. So therefore, Theravadians consider it the same potency which arises in future. So therefore, these potencies are known with their arising in the future as separate entities. So if they arise, they persist and pass away. So they are known with the conditioned characteristics. Therefore, they are not fully freed from the conditioned natures. So if something has these conditioned natures, it would arise in future, right? At the moment of arising, before arising, considering that arising moment, it can be termed anagata. After it has arisen, it's called paccuppanna. After it has passed away, it's called atita. So therefore, they have the timely attribute even. What happens is, now these potencies we cannot call, but still we cannot call them Sankata. Sankata means which have arising, persisting and passing away. They are not possessing these characteristics at this moment. They are just a potency. So they are termed as Sankata Jatika. Sankata Jatika means belonging to the group of Sankata, not exactly Sankata. All of them belong to the group of Sankata, not exact Sankata. Why? They are known with the characteristics of Sankata. At the same time, they are also called, this is number 1, Te Kalika Jatika. Te Kalika Jatika means they belong, realities belonging to the group of realities related to time. They are not time freed. Sorry that it's not clear, maybe it's not very clear. Maybe I'll similar to future. So number 2 is Te Kalika Jatika, means belonging to the group of realities related to time. So what does this mean? Even though these potencies are not termed as past, present, future, even they don't have the characteristics of conditioned realities, but still they fall into the group of Sankata. They still fall into the group of time related realities, because Nirvana is the only thing that is unconditioned. It has no such any relationship with conditioned natures. Nirvana is completely time freed. It should not be designated as past, present, future. Even though these potencies are not classified as past, present, future, but still they will arise in future and they will come into such stages. So that is how they are known. That is how we understand them. That is how they have been expressed. So therefore, they are not entirely falling into the Asankata or Kalamutta group. So the Venerable Lady Sayadaw has termed them as Sankata Jatika and Te Kalika Jatika. Yeah, one before the last point that I want to discuss, 1.71. As Upadino Dhamma, Paramata Jatika and Anupanna Dhammas are not divine based on arising, persisting and vanishing, are they unconditioned realities? Then are they time freed? According to Theravadins, our answer is no. The reason can be fetched in the way, from the way in which we understand these realities. These realities are understood as, if these realities are not eradicated by the noble paths and by other relevant means, they would surely arise and vanish in future. So they are known in relation with the characteristics of conditioned realities, hence are not unconditioned, no time freed. However, as they are not defined based on arising, persisting and vanishing, they do not fully fit to be termed as conditioned realities, and as a result cannot be classified either past, present or future. So what we come into intermediate stage. Therefore, in Paramattha Dipani, they are termed as Sankata Jatika, realities belong to the group of conditioned realities, and Te Kalika Jatika, realities belong to the group that are related with time. So we have now, when we explain Sankata, Sankata Jatika and Asankata. Te Kalika, past, present, future, and related to past, present, future, not exactly past, present, future, and time free. Te Kalika Jatika and Akalamuttaka. I'll repeat again, the condition, we normally say condition, unconditioned. Within the condition, there are realities that are related to condition that are not entirely conditioned, like what we see in the sutta. Then in the time time classification, we have past, present, future that is related to that belong to the 3 times, and reality which are related to the 3 times, not exactly past, present, future. And then the nibbana, the time freed reality. So that is the point. Then the last point is, within the, even though we draw this in such manners to understand what happens is, within the canon, within the literature, not in all ways these terms have been thus scrutinized. They have not been such analyzed. So here for the understanding, we show the reality level, the potency level, how to designate them. Now I know it's maybe it's completely confusing. Sorry for that. So we know that past, present, future, they are similar to future, similar to present. They are conditioned. They are time. They are related to the time. They are conditioned, and they are either past, present, future. Then we call they are not entirely conditioned, but related to the conditioned realities. We don't classify them as past, present, future, but they are related to the time. So this kind of scrutinization is not used even by the Buddha all the time. So how do we know? The thing is, the Theravadians, I'll come back into the Third Council discussion. They do not want to separate this potency and the reality level. So they consider the potency itself arises as reality. So what happens is, within the literature, we find the same name has been given even to the potency and even to the reality. Reality means the Paramatta Dhamma level. So how do we say lobha is eradicated? So what kind of lobha is eradicated? Is it the lobha eradicated that arises in the mind? No, it's impossible. What has been eradicated is the potency. Some places it's mentioned the past karma gets the opportunity to give a result. Is the past karma the chetana which was done? No, it's the potency gets the opportunity to give result. It's the potency that's the opportunity to get result. We are bound with the suffering. Is it the suffering that will happen in future? Is it what we are bound with? No, the potency is here. We are the anupanna, the suffering that we are bound is with us together. So we can get released from that. Release from this potency is called nirvana. So we are not going to encounter such future reality. It is not we don't get freed from the future realities. We get freed from the potency to the future realities. So likewise, we say, Buddha said to get rid of the rupa khandha. To Venerable Radha, he mentioned eradicate the rupa khandha. Even though rupa is not something to be eradicated, according to Suttanta method, there is a way to consider. He said eradicate the rupa khandha. So what does it mean? Is he talking about the eradication of the present rupa to kill yourself? No. Is he talking about eradicate the future rupa? No. He is talking about get rid of the potency for the rupa, that is the anupanna. So think now, in some places he mentioned rupa, contemplate rupa as anicca dukkha anatta, that is the rupa in this level. Contemplate the chitta as anicca dukkha anatta, that is the chitta here. Whenever the lobha arises, be aware, that is the lobha here. So therefore, the same term lobha has been used for the potential lobha and the lobha which arises as reality. The same term, the rupa, has been used, the rupa that we possess and the rupa that we are bound with. So likewise, the karma, we do good and bad deeds. That is the karma that we do arises. The karma which gets the opportunity, the potential. So therefore, the thing is, within the literature, the potency and the paramatta level, paramatta dhamma level has been used. The realities, terms, the similar terms has been used. The same terms has been used referring to the potencies and also referring to the paramatta dhamma level. So it's our duty, the readers have to be cautious to distinguish which thing the term is referring to according to the context. That's the final paragraph which I would like to read. 1.72. Whenever upadino dhamma, paramatta jatika and anupanna dhamma arise as separate entities, in reality clusters, they are called paramatta dhammas. However, according to the classification found in clarifications found in Katavattu, these potential realities should not be, should not be defined as completely separate entities from their stage of arising as paramatta dhammas. We should not separate them as complete different stages. According to Theravadians, upadino dhamma, paramatta jatika and anupanna dhammas are certain stages of ultimate natures. When these ultimate natures are discussed in relation with the arising, they are called Paramatta Dhammas. It is the same realities which arise. That's what I want to say. Therefore, within the Theravada tradition, all the characteristics of Paramatta Dhammas are attributed to their corresponding Uppadino Dhamma, Paramatta Jatika and Anuppanna Dhamma stages. Therefore, when encountering with reality, with a reality, whatever, if either in we have to put it with a reality, either in Suttanta, Abhidhamma or in commentaries, one need to be attentive to consider whether the information found refers to the stages of Paramatta Dhamma, Uppadino Dhamma, Paramatta Jatika or Anuppanna Dhamma. Yeah, so that is the information I would like to share. So today we discuss, I think, quite number of information, and I would conclude the lecture, and this will be the last lecture regarding the conditioned realities. From next week, I'll go into the unconditioned realities. I think I have already summarized the lecture a few times, so I would conclude and give the opportunity to ask questions.
Yeah, good morning, Bhante. I have two questions.
Okay, Doctor.
The first one, the short one is, so when we say that potencies or forces or energies, they remain in the mind stream, then how can we explain the situation of the Asanya Satta? Because over there they only have rupa, then what does it mean by these forces remain in the mind stream? They don't have mind. Then how can we explain that?
Yeah. So another very good question. And the second question, I'll
the second question is kind of a long question, but then...
okay, right. Okay, then first we'll go into the Asanya Satta. I think the audience would understand it, because we say these potencies remain within the mind stream. Potencies remains in the mind stream. And also we have in the Theravada literature that there is a realm called Asanya Satta. There's a realm called Asanya Satta where there is no consciousness. The question is, in Asanya Satta, how do we explain these potencies? How do we explain? Because we know Asanya Satta is not a being, is not freed from the suffering. He's going to experience the next life in the Kama realm for sure. And it's not a fully liberated state. There is a certain liberation at that time, but not fully liberated. So he's not freed from the suffering. And then we explain that these natures are connected with our mind stream. So how do we explain if there is no consciousness there? It's a very tough question to discuss. So, and it has not been, I haven't found such information about the Asanya Satta. But I can give some personal ideas about this. Maybe it's logical or illogical, we can decide it later. So, because so far I haven't found some literal evidences for this, yes. So, what I mentioned was that this is a very tough question, and there's so far I haven't found any information about how to get a literary answer. There's answers from the books for this directly. But we find, like, I can give an answer that I personally feel that is how to explain. I have also discussed with my friends about this question, because this was raised in the Sinhalese fundamental class also. So this, but the first thing is, are they related to consciousness? Yes, that is mentioned in the texts. And is it logical? Yes, we find that they affect the mind. They are really affecting the mind stream. We can call they are related to the entire thing. We can say that they are related to the entire nama rupa, but greatly they are related to the consciousness. Right? They are related to consciousness, and so there are informations that they associate the mind stream, but they are also related to rupa as well. Then at the same time, we know Asanya Satta beings do possess defilements latent. That's why, and also they have a karma force. So it comes forth and gives results in future, in the next life. But we also say that they do not have a mind stream. So the one explanation is that we can say, we normally say they are associated in the mind stream, but at the same time some, for example, with related to the kilesas, we say, we normally say they are associated with the mind stream. So now, if someone is now born in a Asanya Satta, for instance, now this is the life that he had before, and he's passed away. Now during the Asanya Satta there is no consciousness, and then the consciousness arises again. So there is a gap here. So how do we explain if the consciousness is not present in the Asanya Satta? Where does these potencies remain? Do they remain in the past life, or do they suddenly pop up in the future life? That's another question that we are asking. So thing comes with the answer comes, my personal answer, the way of answering, it comes from the Anantara Paccaya. Anantara Paccaya. Anantara Paccaya means the previous consciousness supports the following consciousness. According to Lady Sayadaw, what he's mentioning is every consciousness has a certain kind of consciousness is an act of knowing an object, cognizing an object. So when this act of knowing or cognizing passes away, this act of cognition has a certain speed, a momentum, kind of a momentum. So what happens when the consciousness completely passes away? This momentum does not fully cease. That momentum completely ceases after arousing another consciousness, a similar type of an action. The momentum was related to one action, immaterial action. Now normally momentum is related with physical stuff according to science, but we are going to use that term. So the immaterial consciousness arose and passed away. The momentum related to that, even the consciousness passed away, causes another similar action. That is an action of cognizing an object, knowing an object. A similar action means another consciousness. It ceases after arousing another consciousness. So what the Reddy Sayadaw is mentioning, that what happens in the Asanya Satta level? Are you telling that, do you tell that this momentum, what is going to happen? This consciousness supporting this consciousness with the same momentum, because it has 500 eons have expired, and also anagamis do remain. That's another question. Anagamis, when they enter into Nirodha Samapatti, what happens to their anusaya, their karma? That's also another question, similar type of a question. So this momentum of this consciousness, according to Lady Sayadaw, the momentum of this consciousness would not cease till the net consciousness arises, according to Patana. Patana says it supports, the Lady Sayadaw attribute this into the momentum, the Anantara Paccaya Sati. The example he gives is, now there are certain fighters belonging to in order them to fight in various wars, but sometimes they are given the holiday, they are given the time off. So at that time they do possess the ability to fight, but even while they are in their vacations, still they do possess the ability to fight. It's not that they lose that ability. So likewise, even though the time have passed, the consciousness stream has been suppressed by some special means, Chitta Viraga Bhavana, or by Nirodha Samapatti practice. So if the consciousness has been suppressed by certain special means, still that momentum is not lost, as the soldiers do not lose their ability to fight even while they are out. That momentum still remains. So the momentum remains then in the entire mind stream. So personally, there is a way to explain that if the momentum is there, so it's not fully, even though the consciousness is fully absent, still there are certain traits of consciousness related there, as the momentum is there. So when the momentum is present, we can still attribute that these beings do possess. Because according to the Yamaka or Vibhanga, I forgot, Asanya Satta, everyone who is born in the Rupa Avachara realm do have Anusaya. It's not that the Asanya Satta is freed from Anusaya according to the context. So how do we attribute the Anusaya? The only possibility is for this momentum of the previous Chitta, the Chutta Chitta of the previous life, which supports the following Patisandhi consciousness of the next life. That's how I would explain my personal opinion.
And then the next question is kind of a long question, so please give me like a few minutes to explain it.
Oh, okay.
So but I think this one is important, and because it's related to this lecture, and then also the last time, because if we recall, the last time we talked a little bit about the individuality So here, the main focus is about the Paramattha Jatika.
Right.
So there are many things in there, but my focus here is only about three things: avijja, tanha, and kammasati. Right? And then, so it looks to me that even though they are in the same category, but they are a little bit different. Because avijja and tanha, I would call them objective forces, and kammasati, I would call them subjective forces. Because kammasati is not, it's not there. We can say it's not there itself, because it has to be, we can say, in existence because of the kamma. So we did something and then we leave something else, and that one is called the kammasati. But avijja and tanha, they are there by themselves. So we can say that they are objective, and then so the kammasati is something subjective, right? So then, but I would call them the mental energies, because usually when we say energy, in science or especially in physics, when we say energy, it is equivalent to mass, which is materiality.
Right.
So here we should call them mental energies, right? And then so about the individuality. So it looks like these three things for each individuals are different from the other individual. It looks that way, but I have this thought. Can I say that the avijja and tanha are something part of the nature, and the kammasati is something that belongs to that individuality, and the paramattha dhammas, they are in existence because of the interaction between these three forces? Then can we say that at the moment, let us say the arahata phala, arahata magga, then we usually say that magga eradicates these forces. But can we say that instead of saying eradicating, it is detaching? So it's the kammasati is detaching from the avijja and tanha, because avijja and tanha is like something part of the nature, is out there, and the kammasati is something subjective. So because they are interactive, so that's why that all kinds of paramattha dhammas are springing out from those things. So at the arahata magga, then the kammasati is detached from the avijja and tanha. Can we think about it that way, Bhante? Because I'm thinking about that, but it looks to me that it's bordering a wrong view here. So what do you think about this, Bhante?
Yeah, it's a very detailed and profound explanation. Thank you for that. I think we need to have a long discussion on this, I feel, because I also need to clarify some things about that explanation. For instance, if I say now, there is a statement in the Patisambhida Magga commentary. Now, when the avijja and tanha has been eradicated, the consciousness, that statement has a deep meaning. That's why I want to just repeat it. When avijja and tanha has been eradicated, the consciousness which arises does not come into the state of a kamma, does not come into the nature of a kamma. So the kamma, the attribute of kamma is greatly depending on avijja and tanha, and also, as you said, it greatly depends on our natures. It's like the person, he does it, it has varieties and so forth. And then when we look into the avijja and tanha, Buddha mentioned that they had no beginning in the samsara, that there was no time that avijja and tanha was not existing anymore. Then when we say it's an objective thing, like I think we the Theravadians are not in the opinion that my avijja and another person's avijja are the same. They are just separate forces, but they do share similar characteristics. They share similar attributes. The avijja of every being is similar, even at the latent stage. But if we count them, are they two or the same? I would say they are two. There are two things. There are two potencies, but not but sharing similar characteristics, like the consciousness of every being has a similar functioning, similar characteristic and functioning. So in that sense, when the avidya arises, because I have my own avidya, I have my own tanha which have been existing without any beginning. So then my arahat consciousness, if arises in future, it would eradicate all the avidya and tanha without any remnant. Then what happens, all the consciousness, the anupanna dhammas which arises, because I have been born with a past karma, karma is the main result of all the nama and rupa. Because of karma, all nama and rupa remains. Even though some are not karma born, not vipaka, they spring forth from the vipaka stream. So we can attribute all the consciousness and mental stuff, material stuff into the karma. Karma is the producer of all mentality and materiality, we can call it. Because if the karma didn't produce this life, it would not going to happen. And all the consciousness springs forth from the bhavanga consciousness. So therefore, when the karma force, then when we're talking about the detachment, yes, the karma cannot be eradicated by the path consciousness. What happens is the effects of the mind, lobha and avidya and tanha is no more to the karma, so it doesn't have the ability to give a rebirth. So we can call it detached, or it's not affected anymore when the defilements are eradicated, but the karma still remains within the mind stream. Yeah, that is how I would explain that. Yeah, I don't know whether that's the answer.
So
yeah.
You don't think that avidya and tanha would be something part of the nature?
You mean common to everyone?
Yes, I want to say it like that.
You mean shared by like the Upanishad? Is it like Upanishad that everyone is sharing the same self, for instance, the mother's soul?
That's what I mentioned. That's what I mentioned earlier. That is like it's bordering a wrong view.
Okay.
But I don't want to say it's a self. It's just some sort of an energy, mental energy out there in the nature.
Shared by all the things, all the beings.
It's not we share, but what we have is just the karma force. So that karma force is interacting with that.
Oh, you mean we are, so in that case we are not eradicating avidya and tanha, we are separating avidya and tanha from the karma.
Yeah.
Oh, it would be something new to Buddhism, I would feel. It's something new. I think what we have so far is individuality is there, like my avidya is different from another person's avidya, even though they share the similar characteristic. I think it's similar like the chitta. Like it's not a chitta, but the similar way how we understand. We don't share the same chitta. It's chitta. Now it's like I would say, like, is there a certain kind of a law which defines the rising of consciousness? Why all consciousness have the same characteristic? That is attributed to a law. Like when we go into the chart of Paramatta Dhamma, Paramatta and Sankata Paramatta, Asankata Paramatta. So what does this mean? What does this Paramatta means? It's like there are similar, we can say when we explain, now for instance, in some place we explain that how do we explain lobha and now lobha and chanda, dosa and alobha and adosa. Even whenever ladies have to attribute them to the very basic quality, like there is something called akkanti, non-tolerance. When non-tolerance is mixed with ignorance, it becomes dosa. When non-tolerance is connected with saddha, it becomes alobha. So likewise, we can go in the tree more further, and then if someone asks a question, why every consciousness has the same characteristic or same nature of arising and passing, that is determined by a certain law. So in that sense, why the avidya has the nature of ignorance, or why the tanha has the nature of craving, that is defined by a certain law which governs above everything, like a constitution which governs the entire country, even the president is under it. So likewise, there is a law above all these natures which defines the characteristics of these realities. So it falls in the doctrine of necessity. So therefore, in such sense, we have such a common sharing, But to my understanding, what I've studied so far, I feel like the avijja of us two beings are different entities. Even they are potencies, they are unique potencies, like separate entities. Yeah.
Good morning, Bante.
Okay. Good morning, Robin.
Thank you very much for today's lecture, Bante. Bante, if possible, if the time is enough, I have 3 questions, Bante.
Okay.
Yes, Bante. So the first question is maybe it's a little bit basic, Bante. So I have noticed that Bante has mentioned several times that past reality do not exist and the future reality do not exist if we consider it from some aspect, Bante. I know that in this respect, Bante is talking in the context of the technical stuff, Bante. But can we also apply this understanding for some aspect of our daily life, Bante? Because I think that people in the society are tormented by the past, sometimes tormented by the regret of the past and also the fear for the future, Bante. So can this understanding also be applied in such a daily context, Bante, especially for lay disciple, Bante?
Yeah, I'll just, is it the first question?
Yes, the first question.
So I'll go one by one there. So it's like it's not only for lay disciples, because it's even for monks. Like if something which is not existing, something which is not existing in the future, we don't need to worry about it, because we are supposed to focus on our present moment, and that's a way of getting rid of tension, of stress, and everything. So it's if we worry about the past, because we cannot correct it, it's already gone. We worry the future, which has not yet come, because it can change according to the context, according to the conditions. So therefore, it's a very good thing that we consider they are not existing. So we have to focus on what is existing. We try to correct our existing moment. Like existing moment, what I mean is present moment that we are going to face again and again. But the thing is, like, this is quite important, that to get rid of stress and get rid of all the difficulties that we have in our day-to-day lives, not to waste our time and so forth. And also there are places where the Buddha has mentioned, just focus on the present time and live peacefully. If you think about the past and wonder about the future, that you are not living the entire full life. Then the thing is, in Buddhism, we should not only discuss about this aspect. That is something that I also feel like in Vipassana meditation and also the liberation, we cannot just explain it based on all these 3 aspects. The potency is a very important fact. We are already considered about the potency. Potency means we are not freed from the future. So we are not thinking about the future, but we have to be aware that such a potency is remaining within us. So we have to get rid of the potencies. So that's why I mentioned, when we do the Vipassana meditation, this potential aspect is very important. When we come into, especially to the Udayabhya Jnana, rising and falling wisdom, we start to contemplate about this potency, and we understand that we are not freed from the future suffering that is going to happen in future. So that contemplating on that potency and about the possible future would really brings the detachment in the Vipassana meditation. In day-to-day life, yes, I would consider focusing on the present moment is quite important and useful to get rid of the stress. But at the same time, even in day-to-day life, we know if we are going to face some problems in the courts, or we have some duties to be done, we are not freed from that potency of experiencing hardship in future. So therefore, we do have to think about how to deal with the future. So instead of because if we don't study for an exam, we are going to face difficulties in our lives. So the potency is always there, because now next lecture I'm going to talk about how to get rid of this potencies of suffering. So next lecture we'll be talking about how do we get rid of these potencies temporarily and permanently. What is that nirvana means in terms of Buddhist teachings. So therefore, even in day-to-day life, even we focus on the present moment, that's a very, very good thing, and also it gives a lot of release and all. But Buddhism is not entirely depending on this aspect. The potency plays a huge role in day-to-day life. Even we, as normally ordinary people, we think about this potency. That's why we get prepared for the future. At the same time, and in the same way, when it comes to Vipassana meditation, when it comes to liberation, we do have to consider about this potency, because that is from what we get released or liberation from.
Yes, but
Yeah.
then
it's just like what Bante said that so at in one aspect we should just like live in the present, but we also should be like considering this potency Bante.
Yeah.
So in Bante's like opinion, what kind of attitude is the good balance between these two Bante?
Yeah, it's like even though because when we focus on the potency, we are thinking about it's related to the future. So what happens that sometimes focusing on the potencies, the possibilities, we may get lost in the future and may have some unnecessary fears about what is going to happen, and anxiety especially can occur.
Yes.
So therefore, we should have a balance. That balance has to be, it's personal, and it should be discussed personally, like because some people are very capable of balancing this, some people just hold it very strongly, so the anxiety comes forth. It's something very individual. For an instance, we touch this thing, but there are certain grips, how a person touches this. It's quite different from each other. So how do we deal with the potency differs from person to person, and that grip of the potency also differs based on his characteristics. So it's like some people do hold it very strongly, some people don't take it for granted and just be relaxed with it and then end up in the troubles. So for some people, we have to mention that you have to consider the potencies, possibilities very seriously. For some, we have to say you have to be relaxed. So it depends on the personality, I feel, and I'm not able to give an exact say, but we have to have a balance in it, and that balance has to be dealt according to the person.
Okay, Bante.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bante. And then the second question, Bante, is, so it's springing from Dr. Ryan's question actually. So like Bante said that, for example, like each person, Awija is different, Bante. Since like I have studied maybe a little bit of for example, the Abhidhamma Sanggaha, that it mentioned like reality have the same like characteristic proximate cause like that Bante. So the impression that I get is that I feel that the Awija is the same like for every beings Bante. Then what I want to ask is that what is the difference Bante for example my Awija and your Awija? What is exactly the difference Bante?
Yeah, in terms of characteristics, as we go further and further, Avijja, we find Avijja as the very basic cause. Even though Avijja is also depending on some other causes, it's the very basic cause of the existence. Even Tanna exists as long as Avijja remains. So then how do we define it is like, I feel like that is by itself is like, it has been separated, not by someone like a invisible God or someone. It has been like attributed, like myself has a Avijja that is different means as an entity it is different. For instance, now when we come to the consciousness level, the path consciousness of every being could eradicate defilements. Even two Buddhas eradicate the defilements together with the vasana. But are they same entirely? No. Surely they have two attributes, because how they develop the paramis are different from each other. So each consciousness of path consciousness of the Buddhas, even though they possess very similar characteristics, they do have such slight differences. But when we come into the potencies, the Avijja potency, there are one way of considering their difference, but that is still secondary. It's like if Avijja keeps on, now according to the Theravada, if Avijja keeps on arising again and again, the Lady Shadow says it's similar like it arises and vanishes, and then the Avijja, latent Avijja gets strengthened. It's like you paint on the same thing, it gets strengthened, it gets built up. So the Avijja has been strengthened again and again in the samsara, again and again. That's why Kusala is powerful than Akusala, even though it has been strengthened for countless times in the samsara. With a certain amount of practice, maximally for a Buddha 16 Asankheyas and 100,000 eons, he is able to cut off this. Even the Avijja has been strengthened for a countless time, Kusala is able to overcome. That's why Kusala is considered stronger than Akusala in Theravada context. So if the Avijja has been, or Kilesas has been frequently aroused in the mind stream, the strength of these defilements differ from person to person. Strength of the defilements. That's why some avijja can be eradicated easily by some beings. During the Buddha's time, some could eradicate it with listening to a Dhamma talk. Some had to meditate for, the Rattapala had to meditate for 12 years to get rid of the avijja. The reason lies on how it has been affected, because some have practiced so strongly, the avijja is still there, but it's weakened. Some are stronger. So likewise, the natures of avijja differ based on how we have lived in the samsara. Then when we go into the very basic quality of avijja, it is true that we cannot see a difference in it, because it's the ignorance about the Four Noble Truths, so ignorance about the reality. So therefore, in that level, we see the avijja is same of the all beings. The level of avijja is, level means the nature of avijja is same. There cannot be any difference. Only difference happens while we are living in the samsara, the way we deal with avijja, so the levels of ignorance are different from each being in different lives. So why that difference is possible? Why that difference is possible? It's because the avijja has an individual attribute. So in the very, very basic level, the characteristics avijja should be the same of every beings, none like the chitta, which comes into a manifest as a reality. The avijja should have 100% similar quality shared in every being as a potency. But we see that they have some different levels within individual beings. Why that possible? Different levels of differences are found because avijja is found in beings individually. It has an individual characteristic that this avijja belongs to this being and this avijja belongs to that being. So we can say avijja of this person is higher, avijja of this person is lower. So we can find some information that considering based on the avijja, nature of the avijja, nature of the panya, opposite natures, we define this person as a person who is capable, like for example bodhisattva and pacceka bodhisattvas are considered as strong trees with strong roots who can understand the dependent origination by themselves. So their level of ignorance is quite lower. But other beings are like the grass which just falls back and forth based on the wind. So therefore, based on just following teachers, they would follow even the savakas could follow the teachers, wrong teachers, and they just greatly depend on other conditions. The pacceka bodhisattvas and mahabodhisattvas, mahabodhisattvas would depend on themselves. So that's why they can understand by the reality by themselves. So likewise, we have classifications of beings even based on the nature of avijja. So why such classifications are possible according to Buddhism, what I personally feel is avijja has been explained as separate individual entities based on the beings.
Okay, Bhante. So can we say like the realities have the main nature and then the secondary nature, Bhante?
Yes, that is a very important point. Now, for example, when we come into this level of the classification, the top level of Paramatta, we can say it's a basic level. But can we find such a basic level of Paramatta common in everywhere? I would say no. That is determined by a law. That is determined by law. But when we study, we do feel such an abstract. Is there an abstract avijja everywhere that is shared by the entire world? I would attribute it to a law. There is such a law that has defined that all the avijja which is found in every being share the same characteristic. It's not that the avijja gets the quality from some abstract ignorance in the world. It's that the law that defines that is how it has happened, that the avijja shared by all the beings have a very basic quality.
Oh, okay, Bhante.
But if someone asks what is that what is that law, what does it depends on, I don't think Buddhism is capable of explaining that. Explaining means the causes of that law. That law has no causes. It's not a reality. I'll be talking about these laws and realities after our Asankata, like few lectures. I'll be having another separate lecture about this law and the reality, the difference.
Okay, Bhante. Yeah. Thank you very much, Bhante. Sorry.
So thank you for listening and wish you all the best, and may this merit of discussing Dhamma help to attain our liberation and also to prolongate the Buddha's teachings. Buddha sasanang chirantitthatu, Buddha sasanang chirantitthatu, Buddha sasanang chirantitthatu, sadhu sadhu sadhu.